So I wanted to do a video of my entire Medford Knife and Tool collection. I do realize that this is a pretty overbuilt collection, if you will, but I've collected knives for forever, at least as long as I can remember, and I still I still have the very first knife I ever bought. So I'm not a collector, as in I don't buy, sell, wheel and deal or anything like that. I pretty much buy and I own everything, and I intend to keep it forever. And so that's kind of why that this collection is a little bit overbuilt. I had, Medfords have kind of reignited my passion for knives. I've for some reason, when I picked up that first Praetorian Ti, I just fell in love with it, and it was kind of a knife that I knew I had to have and want. It had looked different than any other knife that I had. But it's only built from there. I do use them. I use a Praetorian Ti every day, and I'll kind of go into that. Obviously, there's so many knives here that I can't carry them all, but I do carry a Medford just about every day, and I'll kind of go into if I've had any problems with them. But I carry a Praetorian Ti, I carry a Vyper, and I carry a Micro Praetorian, and but all of these other ones, I found something special with them. I've purchased them, and I wouldn't say I intended to use all of them, because that's a lie, but that's kind of my mentality. I do want to use them, but some of them are too nice that I ended up not using them. But the reason why I'm making this video is I really enjoy watching knife collection videos, and especially ones that I can learn from. So I'm not an expert. However, if you have any questions, I'll try to make myself available to answer them. If you can learn something, if you're on the fence about some of these knives, I really feel that I kind of want to hopefully help out in any way, shape, or form that I can. So we'll just get started. The upper left-hand corner here, this is a Panzer, and this actually is a knife that I purchased that I intended to carry but never got around to it, and I'll kind of go into why. But you can take a look. It's a pretty small knife, as you can see, but kind of a fat knife. This particular one is a S35V blade. There's some kind of sculpting, and Medford does a lot of this stuff where they can do some customizations that look pretty cool. And this one does have titanium hardware, which I just think is cool. It just kind of adds a little something special to the knife. There are two different, well, I don't know if they're two different generations, but they're definitely at least more than one. And I think this is the latest one at the time of filming, and you can tell from the pocket clip here. And I think they changed just some of the dimensions. So if you look at the knife, you can tell from the pocket clip, and I think the older ones have a little bit more of material here and here. But I purchased this knife with the specific intent to pocket carry a knife, like a gentleman's knife. I didn't even intend to use the pocket clip. However, when I got it, for one, it was just too shiny and nice. I picked it up. I remember the first day after I grabbed it, I was going to throw it in my pocket with my keys, and I'm like, ugh. You know what, I'll wait and I'll do it tomorrow, and then I'll do it tomorrow. So I never did get around to carrying it, and that's a problem that I have. I'm a little bit of a hoarder, if you will. I buy something with the intent to carry it, and then just kind of, I don't want to carry it, I'll just save it. But the real reason why I don't carry it is because it was replaced with a Micro Praetorian. I had this, and this was one of the first ones that I purchased, and it has the old style clip, and I really, to be honest with you, I did not like this clip. So if you know Medfords, I'm sure you've heard of the warranty, and they don't want you taking apart the knives. So when I purchased this, actually, the clip was just too strong, and I couldn't get it into my pocket. So I really didn't have any use for this. So I just kind of threw it aside. And then, one day I decided, okay, you know what? I'm not going to sell the knife, but I want to make it usable for myself. So I actually sanded it down. So I made this clip usable for myself to go into my pocket. But at the end of the day, I just wear it with the suit now, and I throw it in my pocket, and I don't even use the clip at all. So you can see it's kind of banged up from all my keys and stuff like that. This is a micro Praetorian, by the way. This is a D2 PVD blade here. And this actually probably, even though it's not my favorite knife at all, it's the one that absolutely gets the most use because it's with me all the time, and I take it out of my pocket when I'm at work, and I just throw it on my desk, and if I need a knife, letter opener, whatever through the day, this is the knife that I use. So the next knife is another micro Praetorian. And the reason why I bought this knife is, one, because it's super cool. And I bought that Praetorian Ti, this one here in the frame. That one and this one just matched it. Titanium hardware flamed. This one is actually a 3V Tanto blade. You'll see when I get to the Praetorian Ti that one is a S35V blade, but check it out. It's just pretty cool. They just match. Not exactly, but they're like... I don't know, big brother, little brother. I'm weird like that. So I just got it and haven't used either one. And I've taken a few pictures with them side by side, and I'm happy with that. They just look pretty cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying to buy knives and don't use them. It's just I use this Praetorian Ti, and I use this micro Praetorian. This knife here was a knife of the week. I thought it was pretty cool. Again, it's a PVD D2 blade, and it's the Sandy Shoals. I do like the new pocket clips. So when I got that knife right there, I'm like, geez, that it was kind of, they were right in the transition of putting the new pocket clips on. So basically, once I saw the new pocket clip, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to replace that knife with this knife, buy the one with the new pocket clip, but it turns out I don't use the pocket clip, so I use this one more. But I really did like the design. It popped up on Knife of the Week. I don't know what I was, I was just kind of browsing MedfordKnifeandTool.com, which I recommend going to. Saw it pop up, bought it. That's why I have it. And kind of my intent to use it, I really haven't used it very much because I use the other one, would be, if I had to wear a suit, or some sort of dress pants and I needed the pocket clip, I didn't want to deep carry it, then I would just grab it that one, but I haven't done that yet. The next knife is a Genesis, and that actually came from a store called Plaza Cutlery. I'm in Southern California, and they're pretty close by here. So they put on a show in Hawaii, which I've never actually been to a knife show, but I think it's so cool that when the owner comes back, he comes back with like a bunch of knives from the show, so it kind of like feels like I was at the show because I can buy the knives. Anyway, so this knife was done for the Hawaii show. I thought it was, again, super cool. I just think it's really cool when they matched up the blade onto the scales here, and I like turtles, and Southern California by the ocean. It was just a really cool knife. This is a knife that I actually don't use at all. So it's kind of one of those things where be careful if you buy a knife that's too nice. That I just don't use it. And another thing about the size is this is Genesis. I did another video on the different sizes. Quite frankly, I just use the Praetorian Ti. So if you think that this knife is going to be the perfect size, it really is. I mean, if you're a large Sebenza guy, and that's kind of like the knife size, and you don't want to make that big leap to go to a Ti or even a full-size Praetorian, I'd say get the Genesis. But for me, I run the Genesis. This is another Plaza Cutlery exclusive. And they put some tank tracks on it. That's not why I bought it. I just bought it because it's copper. I thought it was super cool. If you've ever felt a knife with copper, they're heavier. I mean, they're just heavier. This knife here is called a Praetorian Ti Relic, and that thing is the heaviest knife on the table here. So I bought this knife kind of to accompany this knife. You can kind of see a pattern. And this is probably why I have too many knives. I kind of have knives that run in series and themes. Oh, by the way, that one is a D2 blade. That's some kind of fade anodization there. And this one is a 3V drop point blade, as you saw. And of course, it's a copper scale with a titanium back. I purchased this one to use, just to beat up, go to the beach or whatever. Just kind of have a nice knife that you can just just kind of throw in a bag and not really care too much about it. Again, they get some nice stuff at Plaza. I really think it's a really nice looking knife here. And it's just about broken in. Yeah, can't flick it. Yeah, not that broken in yet. But this has just kind of got PVD'd hardware, a cool looking blade, and it's a lot lighter. So, you know, I like titanium scales, and the weight is not a big thing. But if you're not going to buy a Medford due to weight concerns, I would recommend looking at a micro Praetorian with the G10 or you know, anything with the G10. Again, I'm kind of biased because I carry a Ti every day, but I feel like this is a pretty light knife. And I think I did weigh it, and I think it's like 7 ounces or something like that, which is kind of, you know, I think a lot of the custom knives out there that are full size are about 5-6 ounces for the kind of the tactical ones, if you will. So it really wasn't that much bigger. So this is the knife here that pretty much I use all the time. This is a Praetorian Ti. It has PVD hardware as well. It's standard PVD hardware. D2 blade, so I haven't had any problems with D2. I see that's a big concern for people, the different materials of the blade. I have all the different materials of the blade, and quite frankly, I don't really know the difference. So, you know, it's a pretty cool knife. This is, like I said, one that I pretty much have in my pocket all the time. It's got a blacked out clip, which is pretty cool if you're wearing dark pants. It just kind of blends right in, and you know, if you need it, that's a pretty serious glass breaker there. But if you see me out and about and you see a Praetorian Ti clip with blacked out coming out of some basketball shorts, that's probably me, and that's probably the knife I'm carrying. We talked a little bit about this knife. Again, I just thought this was a really cool color combination. This is an S35V Tanta, which I think is the best looking. You know, I actually sharpened this one. I should probably talk about that. I use the hell out of these knives. So this one went back to Medford a couple times, and I'm like, you know, I'm not sending this thing back to Medford anymore once I dull it out a little bit, because I like my stuff pretty razor sharp. So I pretty much put this on the Wicked Edge, and it came out great, you know. And so, of course, all of these came pretty sharp, hair popping sharp, but the Wicked Edge gets it right back, if not sharper than factory. So I'm really happy with the Wicked Edge, and it handled the Ti fine. You just got to concentrate a little bit more. It's not one of those, it's a two-stepper, so I do the Tonto blade and the main edge a little bit at a different time, so it takes twice as long. This one was the very first Praetorian Ti that I handled, so this one is the responsible for all the rest. It is a 3V Tonto Vulcan blade. It's got some pretty cool flamed hardware, pretty cool flamed scales and titanium hardware, and for some reason, I just love the Praetorian Tis that have Ti right on them. I just think it's cool. This one I just picked up. You might recognize it. I think they made it for Blade Show, but this one here has, I think the Blade Show one was blacked out hardware. This one's just standard hardware, but it is a 3V drop point, and I'm not gonna lie to you, it's that cool in person. This is actually one of the coolest knives, and I'm surprised I was able to get it, and I love it. So this is a cool knife. So another one made for Blade Show. This one is called a Praetorian Ti Relic, and I think this was made for Blade Show 2015. Now this one's pretty cool because I have not seen a lot of Medford stuff with the Damascus, and I like Damascus, so I really think this knife looks pretty cool. I think it's patinaed over time, so you can see it's a lot darker, but it's copper. So that's why I think these two match up. This is copper. This thing is heavy as all hell. So that's a actual antique Roman coin from way back in the day. This is copper, and I have a couple of knives that have this really cool Medford shield on it, but I just think this knife looks fantastic. So this is actually one of my favorite knives. You know, obviously, I think it's too nice to actually use, but I really do enjoy it, having it in my collection, and it feels insane because it's probably about 3 to 4 ounces heavier than another Praetorian Ti. So those are the Praetorian Tis. Again, I carry this one. I just love the Ti so much. I probably shouldn't have bought that many more extra ones, but I did, and that's the Praetorian line. Another one I picked up, so I picked this up from the same seller who sold me that one, and he had both of these, and I don't know what he was doing, but he was getting rid of Medford knives, and I didn't really, this is early on, so I really didn't know a ton about knives, and I didn't know kind of what they meant. And so I actually picked this thing up. It is super, super cool. I thought this was brass, but I asked Amy, and she told me that this was titanium, but it's got a really crazy polish on it. And again, it's got the Medford logo on here, and I think again this one was built for Blade Show 2015. But one thing that I noticed right away is all of the hardware, the screws, and the blade has like a really high shine to it. So I actually thought it was brass because I never served, but I've seen the movies and I know the belt buckle. So this reminded me of a Marine Corps belt buckle. So I actually posted online, and it turned, I bought it again. I buy everything with the intent to carry it. So I had purchased it, and it does pick up a ton of fingerprints, so that's a negative about it. It's once you hit it with Windex and take it off, it's a totally different knife than once you've kind of touched it up. But I'm like, hey, if I've never been in the Marines, but I'm wearing a knife like this, is that an issue? And of course, everybody online, they went all crazy. And so, but I haven't carried it not for that. I mean, I do have reservations about that. I don't want to be carrying around Marine paraphernalia when I haven't been a Marine. Now, of course, I appreciate the Marines. I appreciate everyone who served this country. But again, it was kind of too nice, too shiny, and then you touch it, it messes it all up. So, and I'm not a big Marauder guy. So you can see that's the only Marauder that I have. But, and this is kind of off, kind of on a tangent here. But I saw online that they discontinued the Marauder and they're going with a Marauder H, which is a hybrid. And I think that this is what this is. Thick scales, but it actually has a thinner blade. So I think if you watch Greg's videos, I think they're going to more kind of EDC friendly knives. So the big kind of bulky knives are out, which I don't know, like maybe I'm the small percentage of people that actually like the big knives, but they're getting rid of these big, I think they're .270 blades, and I think they discontinued every .270 blade except for the Praetorian Ti. But they used to have, a couple of the flippers. The Vypers are .270s. So that's why I think they discontinued the Vypers, but we'll get to that. This knife here, I just bought as a toy. I thought it was the coolest thing, and it turns out to be one of my favorites. When I got it at Plaza, it didn't flip at all. I mean, it was a garbage flipper, and it has broken in so nice. I mean, this thing feels, there's really nothing like it. Now, I wouldn't necessarily walk around with this knife. Sorry, I bumped the camera there. I've actually, walked down to the beach with this thing just for fun. And I think one of the comments by a buddy of mine was, if a stingray pops up, I can take care of it. But I've always loved the blackout look to it. I love this knife. I'm disappointed that I think they just discontinued it. It has the thinner blade, but having a knife this big is just really, really cool. And at the end of the day, like I said, if you're used to carrying big things in your pocket, it really wasn't that bad. I don't think you'd ever need a blade this big, but if you did, it's nice to have. So I'm actually happy I have it. I'm actually happy I have that one. And I think Greg gets a little bit of a bad rap on his flippers, and for a reason. When you buy these flippers, they suck. I mean, they absolutely suck. In the store, out of the box, you order it online, whatever, you get a flipper and you're like, what in the hell is this thing? And you could actually, one, that's a negative. Medfords beat the crap out of my hands. Breaking these things in is not fun. I'm not a big break-in knife guy. I'm not a play with my knife guy. If I could buy them fully broken in, I would. That Genesis was totally broken in because that was a show knife. But other than that, these things were all, they're all ridiculously tough when you first buy them. The Praetorian Tis, I like that. This Praetorian Ti here, and let me see if I can't flick it on camera here. Nope. Yeah, okay, got it. This thing shuts on itself, which is a little scary because that blade is thick as hell. And you want to know what that blade is doing. So I actually kind of, I've got other flippers. I collect Kirby Lamberts. They close on themselves. I just bought another custom that absolutely closes on itself. There's certain knives I want to close on themselves, and the Medfords I do not want to close on themselves because they're so damn big. So I don't, not that I'm, I agree with everything Greg Medford says, but on these particular knives and these styles, I like them a little tighter. And but when it comes to the flippers, it's not a good equation there. So, they do break in, and this Vyper here has broken in so nicely that, it'll close on it. Still got to give it some, but I mean, it fires out quickly. You can put it in the, I did another video on Vypers. Oh, of course, there it is, all right on video. I did another video on Vypers, and I said this would not open in the vertical position. It will. Oh, no, just missed it there. When I'm not having to crouch down with the camera in front of my face, it will most of the time. It's still a .270 knife that's on washer, so don't get me wrong, it's not like a ceramic bearing knife, but man, it really this thing, so I'll just say, when you first buy them, when you buy them out of the box, if they're not used and you're the first owner of it, even in the store, you're going to misfire it 80% of the time. Yes, 80% of the time you will misfire it. Okay, now when I use it, I can comfortably say it's going to fire out about 95% of the time if I'm concentrating on it 100%, right? So that's just the difference. They break in great. This is my favorite knife. I know it's not a very popular knife, but dude, I'm buying as many as I can because I know they discontinued it, and I think it's the coolest damn knife. I mean, when I whip this thing out and flick it, and I know I'm flicking a .270 knife, it's fantastic. So another thing about this is my only Wharncliffe style blade. It's freaking insane. I mean, insanely sharp, insanely pointy. And like I said in my last video, you got to be careful with this thing, because if it's out and you drop it with the weight on this thing, dude, it'll go through your shoe or something like that. So I love the Vypers. I carry this one. I flick this one. This one is fun as hell. And I just recently picked this up because, again, they're discontinuing it, so I wanted to get another one. This one's still a little stiff. I'm breaking it in softly over time because I don't want to destroy my hand, so I'm just gonna break it in softly. But this one is contoured. It has a little bit of a blue fade here. It's got a PVD. All the actually, this Vyper has a S35, but these three are D2 blades. And we have a misfire there. Like I said, this is a brand new, pretty much. Yep. So they suck when you first get them. There's just no getting around that. But this one's cool because it's got some contouring here, and it feels pretty good. Again, this one has some custom work done to it. This one's awesome. And you can watch my other video about Vypers because I love them so much, and I still love the Vypers. Like, honestly, if you said I can only keep one knife out of all my collection, I'm not saying it would be the Vyper, but I mean, I'd strongly consider it being the Vyper. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Again, this one's pretty much brand new, and they're awful brand new. But, once they break in, and like that Gigantes too, was terrible when I first got it, and it just will not misfire now. I mean, even in the vertical, even in the absolute vertical, it goes up. I mean, so they just break in over time, and that's just physics. I mean, you got washers in there, so once the washers get a little bit grit on them and they smooth out, just like when you're, you kind of learn a bunch of stuff as you go, like on the wicked edge, just polishing metal, just, getting a good edge on the knife blade just kind of teaches you a little bit about, kind of how things work. And, once the knife, you just got to flick it. I mean, and I'd say there's probably even a number. You can say if you flick it 1,000 times, it'll be good to go. So I'm actually curious to see if this knife is going to break in even further. Another thing I'll tell you. Oh, this is probably, I should probably point this out. Because of their warranty situation, a lot of people are afraid of buying a flipper because they can't adjust it. I've made the decision on this knife. I do adjust it. So this knife is not under warranty, and Amy knows that. Or excuse me, Medford knows that. Amy's the owner there. But she's had this knife back before, and They've done some things that went wrong, and I'm not saying that they're going to do it every single time. That's between you and the company. But if you're open and honest with them, and you're just like, hey, I'm adjusting it for this or that, they'll tell you a couple times, hey, just send it back in, which you can choose to do or not. But I'm going to tell you now, I have confidence that even though I know that I can, this knife is not under warranty, and I'm going to say it right now, but if that blade were to break clean in half when I'm cutting paper with it, I guarantee you they take care of it, just from kind of how they've interacted with me before. So sorry about that. Got a little message there. Anyway, so almost made it to the end. Got a little interrupted there, but almost made it. Last but not least is this guy here. And again, this one actually flips pretty well. This is an S35V. Not really broken in because I haven't used it, but this knife is awesome looking. This is all hand done. Really cool anodization there. And again, this one has the Medford logo on it. So just a pretty cool knife. Anyway, I can see the timer's 25 minutes. Sorry, if you've watched this from top to bottom, then I hope you really enjoyed it. But, you know, if you have any questions, please let me know. That is the bulk of my collection of all my knives. Obviously, I don't have any other brand of knife that I have as many as the Medfords. But I do love this knife. Again, I carry this one. And this one, I sharpen both of them on the wicked edge, and I carry that one. So if you have specific questions about carrying or whatever, feel free to reach out, and I'll try to make myself available. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate it.